In the long twilight of the ancient world, when Rome's imperial grandeur had already begun to fracture under the weight of internal decay and external pressure, a new people emerged from the shifting frontiers of northern Europe. They were the Lombards, a Germanic tribe whose name would become forever bound to the history of Italy. Their migration, conquest, and settlement in the Roman heartland was not merely another episode in the so-called barbarian invasions, but a decisive transformation in the history of Europe itself, the moment when classical Roman Italy gave way to a new Germanic kingdom rooted in the bones of the old empire. The story of the Lombards is one of movement and adaptation, of violence and governance, of destruction and inheritance. It is the tale of how a people once dwelling in the distant marshlands of northern Germany came to rule the very lands that had once defined Roman civilization. The Lombards, known in their earliest traditions as the Langobardi, are believed to have originated in the region along the lower Elbe River in northern Germany. Ancient sources, particularly Tacitus, place them among the many Germanic tribes living beyond Rome's northern frontier. Life in these early centuries was harsh, shaped by cold winds, forested terrain, and constant movement in search of fertile land. Their own legends, preserved in later medieval writings such as the Origo Gentis Langobardorum, tell of a people originally called the Winili, led by a resourceful matriarch named Gambara and her son Zebor and Ao. According to myth, they earned their new name Lombards, long beards, after a divine trick involving the goddess Freya, who instructed the women to disguise themselves as warriors, allowing their people to triumph in battle and gain recognition from the god Woden, Odin. Whether myth or memory, such stories reflect the Lombard self-image as a chosen and resilient people, destined for greatness through cunning and courage rather than sheer numbers. Unlike some Germanic tribes that directly shattered Roman frontiers, the Lombards underwent a long process of migration and political evolution before entering Italy. During their time in Central Europe, they transformed from loosely organized tribal warriors into a more structured kingdom. Under kings such as Odoin and later his son Alboin, the Lombards became increasingly militarized and politically cohesive. Alboin, in particular, stands as a towering figure in their history, a warrior king who would lead his people into Italy itself. The Lombards had previously allied with the Byzantine Empire against the Gepids, culminating in a decisive victory in the mid-6th century. In a grim display of power politics, Alboin is said to have killed the Gepid king Cunimund and, according to legend, fashioned a drinking cup from his skull, a symbolic act reflecting the brutal warrior ethos of the age. In the year 568 CE, the Lombards crossed the Julian Alps and entered Italy. The Roman world they encountered was no longer the unified empire of Augustus or Trajan. Instead, Italy was a patchwork of Byzantine-controlled cities, weakened rural regions, and Gothic remnants following the devastating Gothic War, 535 to 554 CE, between the Byzantines and Ostrogoths. This timing was crucial. Italy was exhausted, depopulated, and politically unstable. The Byzantine Empire, though still powerful, was stretched thin across multiple frontiers. The Lombards seized this opportunity with remarkable speed. Following Alboin's death, the Lombard kingdom did not immediately consolidate into a unified state. Instead, it became divided into numerous semi-independent duchies, each ruled by local dukes who held significant autonomy. This period of fragmentation lasted for roughly a decade, during which Lombard expansion continued but lacked central coordination. Key regions such as Spoleto and Benevento in central and southern Italy became powerful Lombard duchies, often acting independently of northern authority. Meanwhile, the Byzantines retained control over key coastal cities and regions such as Ravenna, Rome, and parts of southern Italy. Unlike some Germanic conquerors who sought to completely replace Roman systems, the Lombards gradually absorbed elements of Roman governance, law, and culture. They ruled over a predominantly Roman population, and over time, the distinction between Lombard and Roman began to blur. The legal tradition of the Lombards was eventually codified in the Edictum Rothari, 643 CE, under King Rothari, which recorded Lombard customary law in written form. This was a significant step toward state formation, reflecting the transition from oral tribal tradition to structured legal governance.